Good morning, everyone. Time for some extra shot on this almost Friday. That is the good news, is that it's Thursday. Thank you for joining us. Leave those comments. We are tracking them on our handy dandy tablets here. So we have some interesting topics today. We'll get to that O.J. Simpson hearing that is going down in a couple of hours. Let's see, it's 8:15, 10 a.m. our time today, so in just under 2 hours. Again, we're going to get to all of those details in just a second, but this latest headline really shocked us as we were sitting down gathering the facts. And Cornelia is going to dive in on how paddling students is now allowed back in the classroom. Where is this going down?
Texas. So yes, spanking your kids, whooping their butts, however you want to call it, it is back in the Three Rivers Independent School District in South Texas. The Board of Trustees approved now disciplinary actions can include spanking. So, but there are stipulations around it. So. The policy will allow for campus behavior coordinator or principal to deliver the punishment to your students. That's kind of similar to how it was back in the day. I know Megan and Dina probably don't remember that, but
not when I was in school.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that in just a second. But so this is for minor incidents. You get one paddle, and that's for like stuff like not following classroom rules. And wait, there's no after that. There's no more. That's it. Just one paddle.
That's what it says.
So just one paddle. So
one paddle.
I don't really see the point of that. But overall, we're going to discuss it because if you're a viewer who was in school prior to around 1988, you probably remember when you could get spankings in the classroom.
Right. With a paddle?
With the paddle or with a ruler type of like stick or like a round cylinder little wooden thing. So this was a thing.
Remember this?
Oh yeah, I got paddled up until the end of first grade.
Why were you so bad?
You didn't have to be bad. I got paddled in kindergarten for not being able to fall asleep during nap time. And the teacher was like, "Come up here," and I was like, "Why?" And she was like, "You weren't sleeping during nap time." And I was like, "I couldn't sleep." And she was like mad, and she was like, "You were supposed to go to sleep." And I was like, "I couldn't sleep." So I had to give my hand over, and she was doop, 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 and hit me on the hand.
Okay.
And it's embarrassing. I cried.
Yeah,
I told my mom.
Absolutely. And what was your mom's reaction? Because in her
she got mad, and when they went up and cussed the teacher out, it was like a whole thing.
Okay, so eventually, obviously,
Pedro, our camera guy's cracking up.
that became illegal. Yeah. And then does it say why all of a sudden in Texas?
This district specifically did have a policy in place that prevented corporal punishment in schools before this motion. And now that it's passed, the new policy it's going to start at the beginning of the school year, and it's happening for 26 different independent school districts in that state.
School districts within the state of Texas.
So they're allowing corporal punishment as a form of punishment. Do you agree? Do you think a teacher,
do you remember this, and do you agree? Yeah.
Should be able to do that?
But then again, if it's only
a certain person or two people?
Well, no. If it's only, to me, it's pointless if you're going to implement something, but it's just saying one paddling for minor incidents like not following classroom rules. Well, then what's the point? You don't really need it. Like if you're going to,
so you think there should be multiple?
No, I don't think there should be multiple. But if you're going to implement something like this, I would assume that they will feel like they really need to implement spanking. So we're gonna, really spank the kids. But hitting a kid one time, that won't do anything anyway. So I don't think you need it at all. To me, it's pointless.
Do you think it's for you mentioned the word, how embarrassing it was when you would get paddled. So maybe maybe being called to the front of the class and being paddled just once. That whole idea to me is like, it's not even embarrassing, it's humiliating.
Okay.
Because you can do this to my body. I don't know, in 2017, I just don't know how this is
looking
happening.
further, in another newspaper article, it says that parents have to have provided written and verbal consent in order for the school to inflict this form of punishment. So the parent has to agree that this is okay. Maybe they do trust in spanking at home and that works for their child as a form of behavioral punishment. And so when they go to school, they can verbally and also in a written statement say, I do give you consent to do one paddle. It's just one, though, as I'm looking at it. You're right.
Okay, we have someone chiming in. Mel D. Wells Cloutier says, is child abuse going to be legal next? Good question. I wouldn't think so. I would definitely hope not, but I get your point that this is along those lines. It's, again, like we said yesterday, topic we're talking about, where I said it's almost like we're going backwards in time.
Yeah.
We're taking steps backwards. We've made so many strides forward in terms of.
But you had a good point earlier about kids these days.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate. Now, I don't agree with bringing spankings back to schools. And if I have kids, I don't want you touching my kid. However,
That's very different from the household to the classroom.
Right. Right. But I will point out, back in the day, and I don't have specific numbers, I'm just going off of perception and talking to friends and families and seeing then and now. Kids were a little more well behaved back in the day versus how they're behaving now, meaning if you in your mind, if you acted up, your neighbor or your auntie or someone in your community would check you for your bad behavior, you were more willing to be on your best behavior. Not saying all kids back in the day were pretty good. However, now when you go into the classroom, you have kids talking back, feeling like they have the right to say whatever they want to say. You have this idea of kids being untouchable, where I can't say anything too out of the ordinary to a child, or they'll call CPS, they'll call the authorities, I'll get in trouble. So now you have a fear of parents are now fearing the children. So I don't agree with bringing back spankings in school. However, if you look at devil's advocates then to now, kids seem to be a little better now than they were.
Well, and I would say too, I mean, I was spanked as a kid. Not often, because I didn't want to
by
misbehave,
your parents.
because I didn't want to be spanked, correct, by my dad. And I can remember the very few occasions when it happened, and it straightened me right up. But now there are laws in states where a child can report their parent for doing something like that.
Right.
And so when you're specifically talking about Texas, a much more conservative state than California when it comes to laws, of course we have many liberal laws in California versus a state like Texas. But for these parents who are allowing this to happen in the school districts where their kids go to school, it's up to them, one. And two, you know, for me, not yet being a parent and seeing this on the outside, I think, well, I would know how hard I would spank my child versus someone else in another place.
It's your child.
It's your own kid. So I do see a difference in being able to do this at home versus doing it in the school.
Yes.
But for some of these parents, they might think, well, that's how it works at home.
And that's their prerogative to sign that dotted line. So I guess in the end, it is. I see how it kind of makes sense, because the parents still, at the end of the day, have that final decision to make. It's not like teachers just have this free-for-all. I want to go to some of the comments. David Wong said, I attended grammar school in the 70s. I cannot remember seeing anyone receiving corporal punishment in school. Sometimes we were sent to the principal's office, though.
Right.
So not everyone, even from back in the day, has that experience.
Right.
Okay, Janet, I'm sorry. She's saying there's no video, only audio right now. So hopefully, Janet, you let us know if that video has come up for you here on Extra Shot. But she said, absolutely not. I believe the parents should be the only people allowed to paddle their child, and I don't even believe in that. It's all a matter of how the children are being raised. Bad behavior can always be addressed in much more effective and positive ways. I don't know. I guess it brings up that idea of abuse. Is taking to that form, what is it teaching our kids then? If we don't agree with someone, or we think someone's acting up, do you just all of a sudden get into more of a physical confrontation versus trying to talk things out? I don't know what that will teach this next generation of kids. We have to remember, kids are growing up in a much different time. So we can say that kids are acting badder, more, whatever. We can say that kids are different these days, but they're also growing up in a different time where they're exposed to a lot more. Maybe kids have always acted this bad, but because of social media, we see videos now of these kids being terrible, and just perception, it's all in perception, right? But being terrible out in public. But you're talking about more experience that you've experienced with children in person.
I'm talking about experiences I've experienced in person. I'm talking about getting feedback from teachers as far as behavior in schools versus observing behavior in schools when I was coming up. So again, this is just not me being like, yeah, you bad. No, this is having friends who are teachers who vent on Facebook and their friend circles every day about the state of children in today in schools today.
And if you're a teacher and you are in a classroom now, I know we have viewers from across the country sometimes. If you're in a classroom where you would see where this would be of value, please write in. If you are a teacher who is 100% against it, write in. And as a parent, none of us are parents yet. How would you feel about this? Is that something you would be willing to sign off on for your child at school? I'm curious to know what you think.
It would all depend on your child, right? You are the one that knows your child best. So if you think that a paddle would straighten your child up, and it would have to be, again, controlled. How hard are you going to hit my child? Are you whooping my child? Are you tapping my child? Is it about the humiliation versus the pain?
Right.
I don't know. I just do not agree with this. If I was a parent today, and again, can I officially say that? No, because I don't have the child sitting here. I don't know that emotion, but I would think I would not sign that dotted line. And then that's the end of that story, right? Don't touch my child. So then you do have control. And then you don't have to.
And then Rob's not here. Well, I don't know where Rob is. But Rob was talking about his mom was a principal, and he said that she was a principal, so she remembers having to spank children. She said she did not like doing it.
She never liked it. Okay.
Even when it probably was a rule, that doesn't necessarily mean everybody was on board.
Right.
It was just the policy, the school policy. That's what was agreed upon. That was kind of the standard. Maybe depending on state, maybe even depending on your county, your region. So some people had that experience, some people didn't. I think I agree. We all agree. Don't touch my kid in school, because for me, it's less of a community nowadays. I don't feel as connected with my neighbors and people who are looking out for. I don't feel like everybody would have my child's best interests at heart, especially now in 2017.
Dina and I both spotted this right now. Carlos Reyna, thank you for chiming in. Thank you for joining us here on Extra Shot, saying, I'm all for paddling. So opposite of what we were saying here. My parents signed when we were in school. And he seems to... Do you have kids now, Carlos? I'm interested to know that. Do you have kids? Would you sign? Your parents did. You had that experience. You seem to not be that affected by it in a negative way. So would you let your kids be paddled in school in 2017?
And Trisha McLaren, hello Trisha. Trisha said we had a principal that called parents to come up to spank the child in the school office. That's the best strategy, I believe. So saying, you know what, instead of getting a star when you do well, you just earn yourself a spank from mom after the school bell rings today. Really? And then mom comes and does it.
Hey, Miss McLaren, can you come up and whoop your daughter's butt? Cool. We'll see you at 30.
Interesting. I can't see that.
Come with her back.
I don't know. The paddle, what was most effective for me as a child was my mom's look. Her glare at me.
So were you ever spanked? Oh, that one.
And I was like, oh, thank God. Was I ever spanked? Yeah, I was tapped as like a small child. Yeah, I was. And that doesn't bother me. Because again, it's within the household, and you as a parent know your strength, and it's your child, so there's some sense of compassion there. But I think this is a different debate. This is about in the classroom and another person having that control.